everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah.
It's Thank God I'm Atheist,
A podcast exploring religion, politics, and current events from two atheists just trying to get by in these wacky United States of America.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And filling in for Rachel, I'm Dan.
Coming up.
Just kidding. By the way, thanks so much, Rachel. Thank you. I appreciate you. She was great filling in for me.
And coming up on the show today, Dan.
Yes.
We're going to have a little conversation about atheists as an entity and needing like a symbol to counteract religious symbols. You know, Christians walk around with crosses and whatnot. Dangling.
Here's what we need to do. We need to murder we need to get one of our most beloved figures murdered. And then we can hang their murder weapon around.
Trick somebody into... That's awful. That's
what they did.
Yeah.
If the Christian, it works real good for them.
Yeah. Okay.
They love their murder weapon jewelry.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, be that as it may.
Yeah.
We have a show to do. And first, coming up, before we get to all of that stuff, some stuff happened this week. News happened.
Various new things, a new or two for you.
Including a little bit of an update about the ongoing Oklahoma Bible education in public schools saga.
Or lack of education.
Or lack of education in the public schools. You remember the state superintendent, Ryan Walters?
Oh, do I ever?
Very nice fellow, this
handsome devil of a
Ryan
man.
Walters. He's very clean cut. I'll say he's into his grooming, and he's always dressed conservatively but smartly. He's put together.
If I were to describe him, I would say Nazi youth who hides his Grindr profile from his wife.
Okay. Perhaps actually, yeah. All right.
Look at him. Tell me I'm wrong. Anybody.
You might have touched upon something there. Anyway, as everybody knows, I'm sure, or maybe you heard it on the show here. We've been talking about this thing where he has ordered all public schools in Oklahoma for the teachers to incorporate the Bible into education, right?
Yeah.
He sent out a memo saying immediate and complete implementation of these guidelines for the 24-25 school year is required. This memorandum and the included standards must be provided to every teacher, as well as providing a physical copy of the Bible, the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Ten Commandments as resources in every classroom in the school district.
He's a goddamn hero is what he is.
He claims that these documents are important for making sure that the students of Oklahoma have a, quote, holistic education.
Which is obviously the opposite of holistic.
Yeah.
If it were holistic, he'd be calling for the inclusion also of the Quran. But holistic would be a nightmare for him.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. Well, one might wonder how the educators of the state are responding. And turns out that now at least 8 of the state's larger school districts are saying, no. We're not going to change from our current materials. Our courses are staying the same. And no, sir, we will not comply. These include the Piedmont Public Schools, Jenks Public Schools, which is in suburban Tulsa. Or I'm saying Jenks. I think it's Jinx Public Schools.
Oh, okay.
And Norman Public Schools, Moore Public Schools, Stillwater, Bixby, Yukon, and Deer Creek School District have all joined in this effort to push back against overreach. State law already allows the school districts to determine how they will use the Bible in their course materials. But state law also is clear that it's not to teach the religion, but it's to teach how religion and how religious texts might have played a role in something like history or something like that. Like, so you can bring it up in that context as long as you're not like teaching Jesus. Right.
Right. And of course there is the potential there for malicious compliance, which is to say, because if you actually teach how the Bible was, was used for historical purposes, you're going to come up with some stuff that they're not going to like.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully the good school teachers of Oklahoma. And this sort of shows, goes to show how, like, so often it's just these political blowhards, these guys who are trying to impress, other political blowhards, into trying to get some other higher office or whatnot. Right. This guy has political aspirations, no doubt. It's why he keeps making headlines for himself.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show how he's willing to fuck around with education. But the people who are like trained and educated in these areas, right, that for the most part, they're going to stand up for what's right. Right.
For now. I mean, basically what's going to happen is he's eventually going to just fire everybody that like has any real education themselves.
I don't think that's how Oklahoma's set up. I don't think he has the authority to fire the
I did read
the local superintendent.
Like, he also doesn't have the authority to like enforce to say what to force people to do this.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He is not the one who determines curriculum.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It seems that the article mentions that the school districts have their, have leeway to determine their own curriculum in these regards.
Yeah.
So.
And the legislature is sort of, they make determinations about what can and can't be taught as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, which is equally terrifying. Like,
yeah.
Definitely, I do not feel comfortable with Oklahoma politicians deciding what is and isn't
fit for public schools.
A good thing to teach to children. I don't think that's the crowd we really want making those decisions, but that's where it is.
Well, fortunately, they're not. They don't have authority over our children. Dan.
Well, yes, because we don't have children.
Oh, so. No.
What would we do? We're childless cat ladies is what we are.
I want a t-shirt
that says childless cat lady.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay.
He was calling Pete Buttigieg a childless cat lady as well. And then if you listen to the quote, Pete Buttigieg is in the list of people who are crazy cat ladies. So
he's not childless.
I know. And also not childless. Yeah.
And also not a lady. And probably has a dog. I don't know. Like, whatever.
Anyway.
Well, our keen listeners, people who have been listening for a bit, will know that over the past several years, you and I have turned to the work of a guy named Ryan Burge, who is a social scientist who does an excellent job of creating like visualizations of data, of taking data and boiling it down. And his specific interest is in religion in the United States.
Okay.
And sort of the demographics of various religions and sort of the trend lines and all of that sort of thing. So we look to him a lot for concise and easy to digest looks at the landscape, the religious landscape of the U.S.
Yeah.
He is also a pastor at the First Baptist Church in Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Okay.
Or rather, he was.
Oh, what happened?
He has become one of his own statistics.
Oh.
As his church just had their final meeting and will be shuttering because they don't have enough parishioners.
Oh, I guess.
And this is a story that is happening all across the country. One of the things that I hadn't realized was happening, and this is kind of what I'm getting to, is that yes, there's a downward trend in church attendance, in belief, all of these things.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and I think this is actually a bad thing, is that what's happening is believers are consolidating into mega churches.
Big church is coming for you.
Rather than these little churches thriving. The little churches are dying.
Yeah.
And more and more people are going, are righteous gemstoning rather than going to their little church, which means that these mega pastors have way too much power.
Yeah.
They have way too much influence. These little churches are where you're going to find a loving, the pastor who is more moderate about things and who isn't like, you have to vote for Trump and gay people are evil and, trans people are trying to kill your children and blah, 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 blah.
I mean, you say that, but I'm sure there are plenty of small churches with perfectly hateful preachers.
Absolutely. But but I'm just going to say that, we know the mega churches that have this, and their influence is oversized.
Sure.
And so I'm actually like, I don't know how I feel about the closure of all these little churches, other than the closure of any church is probably an okay thing.
Yeah. I'm not gonna shed a tear or anything for these little churches. But yeah, I mean, the idea of big church is coming for you, big cross.
Yeah.
We talk this consolidation in other industries usually doesn't lead to better products or better service.
No.
Right?
Just screws the consumer.
And it's going to happen to these people, which I don't care. No. Let them have maybe a more entertaining, but less fulfilling religious experience, right? Yeah. Every week.
It's the American way.
Yeah.
That what could be more American than there eventually being only 4 churches left, and they're mega churches.
And then Comcast buys them out,
and then you have a drive-through church option, and then you can have a microwave your church at home option.
And
there's no nutritional value at all anymore, and it's just
tastes great, less filling,
Yeah.
So
there you go.
All right, Dan.
Yeah.
Kim Davis. I'm just gonna say the name.
Wow.
Beautiful name.
We still have to say her name
for such a lovely human being.
Those
of you who may not be bothered by just the name being said, Kim Davis.
If your skin didn't crawl, we'd better explain who this person is.
Let me fill you in. She was the county clerk in Kentucky that made headlines when she refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples based on, her own religious bigotry.
Yeah.
In the wake of gay marriage becoming legal across the country. And the headlines have just sort of continued. Some of the couples who were denied marriage licenses, sued. And she was actually ordered to pay, let's see, one of the couples, David Ermold and David Moore, the Davids. She was ordered to pay them $100,000 in damages for violating their constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. Of course, her legal team is appealing that decision. And by legal team, I mean the people at Liberty Counsel, which also, as a reminder, appears as a hate group on the list that's cultivated by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah.
And so,
shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking that a hate group would be defending her.
Yeah.
Who could have seen it coming?
Well, anyway, as part of the appeal of that decision, that also, when she also had to pay was ordered to pay $260,000 in fees and expenses to attorneys. So, I mean, she's on the hook for quite a bit of money. And part of this appeal is being designed to overturn marriage rights as it goes to the Supreme Court.
Of course it is.
So this is very concerning for married LGBTQIA folks across the country.
Really? Why?
And for me personally, Dan, because my marriage and the rights that brings is potentially on the line. And we have a Supreme Court. Yeah. We have a Supreme Court that, as let's see, Clarence Thomas wrote in his concurring opinion of the case that overturned abortion rights, you'll recall.
Yeah.
When was that? Last year? The year before? 2 years? 2 years? How long? 2022 was when the constitutional rights to abortion were overturned by the Supreme Court. He wrote in his concurring opinion that the court could use the same rationale that they had used in that case to overturn earlier decisions on same-sex marriage and access to contraception. So he basically signaled to all the hate groups like Liberty Counsel as to what to do, and indicating that there was, that might be the route to go for ending these rights in America. So, not good fucking stuff.
No.
And I'm like, I even questioned whether I wanted to bring it up because it's a little disturbing to me, but I felt it was important that we know that this is happening. And let's just add that to the stakes for this fall. When you're thinking about this election, guys, which everyone, how we feeling? We're feeling a little bit better, hopefully. But the stakes this fall, let's remember what they are. And because our rights are on the line, they're at risk this fall.
Yeah.
We've already seen that they're willing to overturn things like the rights to abortion,
Yeah. They are gladly willing to take away rights.
Yeah. And so let's just keep reminding ourselves of that.
It is the position of this podcast that is not a good thing.
I would think getting rid of gun ownership rights. That's a right. Wow. That's a right I would like to see go away.
And suddenly Dan gets quiet. I didn't know that we were going to go. I was so prepared to be in favor of rights, and then you decided to just step on a bear trap and invite me in. No, right. Thanks.
Let's move along.
Yes, please. I'm going to take us to New Zealand, where they just released a 3,000-page report done by compiled by the Abuse in Care Royal Commission, which was apparently empaneled to look into the abuse of children and vulnerable adults who were in the care of the state or in the care of, state-sanctioned religious facilities or institutions.
How many pages?
3,000.
So they found just one case and decided to overly document it, or
yes, yeah, that was it.
Is that what happened?
One bad thing happened this one time, and they're just expounding. They're just pontificating.
They just want to make sure that it never happens again.
Yeah. So, Oi. No, we wish. No. In a country that right now has only about 5 million people, they found over the past, and this is over 70 years,
Okay.
they found 200,000
Whoa.
people, not instances of abuse, but people who were abused.
Whoa. Oh my God.
So obviously this is horrifying. This is not good. And it is not just religious orgs. There are state-run things and stuff. This is a huge, huge and horrifying thing. However, one of the things that if you tease out the numbers, you'll find that so basically in total, the number of people who were in these organizations, in this system, who were abused was about a third. It was about a third of the people in the system found themselves the victims of either
God.
like physical abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. However, if you look at what happened in the churches, particularly the Catholic Church, that number goes up to 42%.
Oh. Wow.
So, yeah. Apparently, accusations have been made against 14% of New Zealand clergy in the Catholic Church.
What the fuck? Wow.
14%.
Wow.
That is...
I'm glad I found a joke before you got started, Dan.
Yeah, that's right. Because it is shocking. And,
holy shit.
I mean, it's shocking because we're seeing the numbers. You and I have long said the running joke has always been, if you've got a diocese, you've got an abuse problem.
Yeah.
But 14%, if there are 10 priests in the room, 1.4 of them are statistically an abuser in New Zealand.
Well, there you go.
And then, and the larger story of that is that the other, 9 people in the room are part of a system that protects those 1.4, people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The rest of that institution, the Catholic Church, it is like, Hemet Meta pointed out that if it's 14%, that's not a few bad apples. That is a systemic problem. That is a that is a system that supports this and protects it.
Yeah.
So the good news is, New Zealand is a place that would produce such a report,
Mm-hmm.
and it seemingly commit to not only fixing a lot of the systemic problems, but honoring and aiding victims. We'll see how that works out.
Okay.
But it does sound like that is where they're headed. The Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, has basically said, he said, we should have done better, and I am determined that we will do so. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know what changes are to be made, but knowing the facts is a darn good start.
All right. Well, Dan.
Yeah.
Way to bring the show down.
What? What did you just do?
All right. This might cheer you up, maybe.
Okay, I like it. Cheer me.
Maybe. If we do this right. No. Apparently, we've talked about a lawsuit that James Huntsman has filed against the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
James of the family Huntsman,
Yes.
which if you live in Utah, you know that name. They are the billionaire family
Of
mining magnates, I do believe.
I think it had to do with oil because they had refineries. I believe.
Okay.
They were it was a chemical company of some sort.
Anyway, it's a family of billionaires,
Yeah.
and they're big deal. And one of them, the naughty one, left the church and then sued. So what? So
yeah. So we've heard about that. We've talked about that one before.
Yeah.
Well, now, as the church is calling them, there's a bunch of copycat lawsuits that are happening. And they're really pissed off about it. All these copycats. They think James Huntsman. He wants his $5 million back, is what he's saying he gave to the church. And these are people who are seeking anything from $3,700 to $183,000 that they want back.
Wow.
And so I'm not entirely sure how this works, but they're being bundled together.
It's like a class action.
It's being turned into a class action lawsuit.
That is amazing.
And so they're joined. There's a total of 9 plaintiffs so far,
right?
Who are suing and over their claims that senior church leaders had lied for decades about using tithing donations solely for sort of charitable uses and for church operations and whatnot. And instead, the church was out investing the money and turning it into a multi-billion-dollar fund.
And building malls and shit.
And then using that money, because it'd be one thing to invest it and build a huge endowment that you then went out and did amazing things with.
Yeah.
And members probably, one, they wouldn't have much to stand, a leg to stand on. But 2, they'd probably be like, hey, that's pretty awesome. Right.
Yeah.
Like they didn't need the money. And so they did something with it. And now they're doing something like really positive. But no, like you said, they built a multi-billion-dollar mall in downtown Salt Lake City. And amongst other things, they bailed out.
Your religion doesn't have a mall? Oh my.
A mall with like a Tiffany and Company, a Louis Vuitton store, a Michael Kors store, right? Like this is not your typical everyday suburban mall. This is a fancy mall. Oh, one of the other things they did with the money is they bailed out one of their insurance companies that they own.
Right.
So they're definitely putting the people's tithing money to good use, just not the use that the people thought it was going to be going toward. And so this is an interesting case because it's basically saying that when you give money to a church, like, have you completely relinquished?
Right. Can they be held accountable for how
they end up using it? Right.
Use it, yeah.
And obviously, I would be of a mind to say that they should be responsible for it. They are taking some interesting. This lawsuit is a little different from Huntsman's approach. In that lawsuit, he specifically is going after the fact that Gordon Hinckley, who was president of the church, insisted during public speaking, during those little speeches at General Conference, that no tithing funds would be used on the construction and development of City Creek Center, right? So he did say that. But they're not going that route. They're actually, they have a bunch of quotes from other church leaders that they're leaning on, aside from Hinckley, that are making similar assurances, but these are not necessarily over the pulpit. These are they're not sort of speaking religiously. These are more in sort of secular sort of settings where they're just reassuring people that the money would not go toward building the big mall, which is an interesting approach. The suit also apparently goes to great lengths to illustrate that the church's public assurances through the years that the donations it solicits and collects via tithing or fast offerings are spent primarily on philanthropy, including help for the poor, needy, education, missionary work, and other ecclesiastical works.
How is access to a Swarovski store not philanthropy, Frank?
They gave the city a great gift with that mall.
Answer me that.
what a great gift. I feel like they're taking care of the consumer needs of this city. And God bless them.
God bless
everyone. The Mormon Church for bringing in high-end retail into Salt Lake.
Yeah. It was so needed. It's what they did what was necessary.
Also important to note, people who are not familiar with the geography of Salt Lake City, is that this is right across the street from the temple. Right.
Yeah.
Like this is, they're making a statement here.
You can go see where God lives and then hit the Nordstroms for some sort of sale or something. That's pretty great.
The twice yearly sale. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with retail as you are. I was lucky to have pulled Swarovski, to be honest. It took me a second. I was like, oh yeah, there is one of those there. Yeah, I think, you know what I want to do is I want to encourage, I know we have a lot of ex-Mormon listeners. And if you paid tithing in the years, I say join this file.
Why
you know
not?
What I mean? Like, get in on this.
Yeah, totally.
They'll want you. And so I find out who these people are, Google it and join up and let us know if you do.
Yeah.
If you join this lawsuit, write in and let us know. We definitely want to hear about it. Well, I'm going to take us to the far off land of Tejas, the land of Texas, specifically Fort Worth. Or is it Dallas? I think it's Dallas actually. Where this is the home of Pastor Robert Jeffress.
Blessed,
a perennial favorite. And every time I read about this guy, I'm forced to see the phrase spiritual advisor to Donald Trump, which could not be more nonsensical a phrase if you tried. Donald Trump doesn't take advice from anyone, and there's nothing about Donald Trump that is spiritual at all. But there it is. He's in the inner circle, or has been at least. He was frequently at the White House, whispering in the ear of the orange one, and he is a bona fide piece of shit. But he's a mega church pastor. He's been at the historic the First Baptist Dallas Church since 2007. He's been the head pastor. He has been sent a message from God.
Well, that's big.
It is big. It's a big deal. He doesn't seem to be framing it that way. But frankly, if this happened to someone that he didn't like, he would gleefully talk about the meaning that God was trying to send. Here's what happened. His fucking church burned down.
Oh, really?
Now that's not 100% true, because this is the sort of historic kind of beautiful structure that was, in their downtown campus. But it's not like the mega church. Like there's a much more modern structure next to it that I think is probably where church took place. But this was the pretty, also fairly large church that burned basically to a shell. I mean, no roof, no walls. It is the exterior brick structure, and that is it.
Wow, really?
Now he has vowed to rebuild. He's not going to be able to. There's no way this structure is sound. I don't think. Obviously they'll have to bring in engineers to determine whether or not. This is doable. But I wanted to talk about what is the Lord saying in this moment, because
it's a trial, Dan.
If he's not an absolute hypocrite, which obviously he is,
right?
He would have to really sit down and reflect on what this means. Does it mean yes, get rid of the past. The path that the mega church path that you're on is the right path.
Oh, okay, sure.
That's one potential interpretation
Okay,
of this occurrence.
Okay.
Does it mean you have desecrated God's word, and now God is symbolically showing you that by burning down the house that was meant to be for that?
Wrath of God. That's what that's what he is drawing down upon himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, certainly, if the mosque down the street had suffered this fate,
mm-hmm.
he would have gleefully said that.
Well, or more
Maybe
likely the gay club down the street.
Yeah.
The gay bar down the street gets blown over by, a big wind, and clearly God did it, right?
Right. 1,000%. Yeah, gay club's actually probably a better thing, because you're right, there would be this pretend honor among thieves sort of thing.
Exactly. They love that.
Terrible.
They
what
love
a terrible
that.
tragedy.
Oh, we need to help our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Right.
And
but
blah, blah.
if the gay club burned down,
mm-hmm.
he would be dancing at the pulpit about how much God had shown his displeasure for these disgusting sodomites.
Yeah.
So I am dancing at the pulpit and saying, God hates Robert Jeffress.
Oh, it's such a ridiculous stance to take, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it like any of these pastors, preachers, whatever they are, that have ever, said this sort of thing. I've forgotten his name. The 700 Club guy. What's his name?
Pat Robertson?
Pat Robertson. Oh my God. What a wonderful, wonderful moment that was.
It's been great. He's been dead for just long enough that we don't necessarily immediately call his name to mind.
Oh, that's wow.
Thanks, Death.
I feel like, wow. What a wonderful thing has happened in my life. But he was famous for that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it was just such a dumb position to take, because sooner or later something bad is going to happen to you. And what does it mean then, right? Like every bad thing that happens in the world to, the group you don't like is God. Like it's just
right. And then when it happens to your people, it's just like,
God's trying us. It's a trial.
Or it's just like, the Pat Robertson thing of, no, dummy, that's just weather.
Oh, yeah.
That just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Hot air, you get two fronts coming in. You've got a cold front coming in from the north and a warm front coming in from the south, and then they hit each other. It's gonna create tornadoes. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh, golly.
So there you go. A church burned down, and I am happy about it. I mean, I'm not, because it's a cute structure, and you and I are fans of old churches.
I just like nice. I just like when there's a nice, interesting piece of architecture in a community, a focal point, right? Like the visual focal point on like a public square or whatnot. But I was in Belgium not too long ago, right? And I was reminded of the fact that their public squares. Dave, my husband, sort of pointed at the big building with a big tower on it and referred to it as a church. And I'm like, oh no, that's one of the old public buildings, right?
Yeah.
This was like, I don't know if it was like City Hall or whatnot, but like, it was like that was not a religious building, right? And so
we're allowed to do that if we wanted to.
Yeah, we could just build cool buildings with towers and have these like focal points in our communities, but instead it's more often than not an old church, and some of them can be nice to look at, and I like that. I like nice things to look at. So,
well, one fewer of those. Yeah. Sorry, Dallas. There you go.
Oh yeah, that thing was doing some heavy lifting for Dallas.
Yeah. If you would like to write into us and tell us your feelings about churches burning down, or any of the things that we've talked about, please feel free to do so. podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
And if you'd like to tell us with your mouth about it, you can leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming up.
Well, Frank, we've had some lovely people write into us, which I'm always appreciative of.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll just dive right in because we skipped last week.
Correct.
Because,
Can't do it without Dan.
I don't give you access to the email.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but
it's not. But yes, here we go. Celine wrote in from Switzerland and says, "Hi, Frank and Dan, longtime listener from Switzerland here. Today, I read a report in the newspaper that cited a study which shows that whereas 50 years ago, only 1% of Parliament, this is Swiss Parliament, declared themselves as non-religious, the number has increased to currently 34%.
Wow.
Being therefore the biggest group, followed by Catholics at 32% and evangelical Christians at 20%.
Yeah. Wow. Good on Switzerland.
Yeah, that's really cool. Two things I'd like to add, says Celine. As is frequently the case, Parliament is not representative of the country as a whole. The numbers for the regular folks are even higher, meaning more people are religiously non-affiliated at 58%.
Wow.
Also, when being asked about the subject, congressmen and women often explained that they declared themselves as evangelical or Catholic on the questionnaire, even though they are not. They are, in fact, non-believers.
Oh.
So
yeah, there you go.
There you go. That's some good stuff happening. Also, Celine says, P.S. I do think it would be a good idea for TGIA to become a church.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You'll recall 2 weeks ago, we talked about my ambition that you and I form this into a church for myriad reasons, just so that at least somebody on the left is also taking advantage of loopholes that people on the right are wildly taking advantage of. And maybe if we piss people off enough, they'll actually close those loopholes, which you and I would be fine with.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, we wouldn't have to pay taxes and we wouldn't have to tell them what we do with our money. And it just sounds great.
Yeah.
And everybody's donations would be tax deductible.
Yeah.
Like so many things would happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and we had some folks write into us about that. Nobody wrote in to say that's a bad idea, which I'm sure someone out there thinks it is, but they're not there yet.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So Torsten said, "Hi, Frank and Dan. Regarding playing the unaccountable tax-free game that Christians are doing, sounds good. John Oliver's This Week Tonight did that, and it's called Our Lady of Perpetual Exemption. Similarly, Democrats should massively gerrymander. It seems the only way to get Republican support to ban gerrymandering nationally." I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Democrats do gerrymander. They don't do it as much, but they do it. And it's gross. And rather what we should do is just elect Democrats. Well, we can't because of the gerrymandering. Damn it. They've got us.
All right.
We need to elect Democrats so that we can just pass a national law that says that prevents gerrymandering in some way.
Yep.
And also, Elliot wrote in to say, "I agree with Dan that left-leaning organizations should claim to be churches for tax purposes. Yes, to point out the hypocrisy and eventuate change, but in the meantime, as part of a financial/political arms race against the political right. They are taking advantage of these loopholes, and we are not, and it means more money and influence for ethnic national candidates and causes and less for others." I mean, it's true. If they have more money, that's power that we're not taking advantage of.
Yeah.
So I've put out a few feelers. We'll see. The call is still out there. If you or someone you know knows a lot about being a nonprofit and about how to set something like that up and stuff, reach out to us, please, because I'm on board. I'm on this thing. I want it. I think if we could pull it off, it would be great.
Sure.
I don't know how you feel. You seem hesitant.
You've
Far more
never
hesitant.
asked.
I'm not interested in your opinion. I'm making it happen.
Good Lord. All right.
We also had, let's see, who else wrote into us? A whole bunch of people. I'm going to go with, I'll pick one more. This is Max, who wrote in to say, Frank and Dan, I just listened to your episode. I was quite happy to see you call for an increase in both good faith disagreement and discussion, though I certainly share your skepticism about Greg Locke. And that's fair.
Yeah,
You'll
yeah.
recall that 2 weeks ago we sort of talked about, like, can we have good faith discussions and can we do a better job of having, disagreement in good faith and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Max goes on to say, I wonder if you wouldn't consider modeling it by having someone like Kathleen Stock or Jesse Singal on your show to discuss trans policy and gender issues. Now, I had to look these people up. And yes, Kathleen Stock seems to be a bona fide person who has, who's liberal but has controversial views on gender issues.
Okay.
Max goes on to say, they are both liberal like you and me, but I suspect differ greatly from your perspective on youth gender care, trans athletes in sports, while also agreeing with you that trans people shouldn't be discriminated against, etc. And here's the thing. No, we're not going to have them on because we're not experts in trans issues. It would be inappropriate for us. Like, that's not the focus of this show. That's not what we're all about. But also, like, that's not the format of this show. I get the idea, though. It is an interesting concept, the idea of modeling good discussion between disagreeing people. I don't think that's what this show is for. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
This show's about mockery.
The show sometimes.
Yeah, no. I mean, we have done interviews in the past. We've had people on, but like, yeah, it always feels like a little bit of a departure whenever we do it. I don't have any strong feelings either way, but I do take your point of that particular topic wouldn't be necessarily the one I would want to do. But like, if we had like a believer come on, right?
Yeah.
That,
depending
on who that person is, right? Like that could be an interesting conversation.
You know what I'm doing? I'm going to issue an open invitation to Greg Locke to come on our show. And we will, I don't trust Greg Locke, but
well, there you go. Yeah.
But I will say that, like, I will invite Greg Locke, and if Greg Locke is capable of a respectful, earnest discussion
about the country and mending bridges and that kind of stuff.
Any of that stuff. Yeah, we're not gonna like hash out the truth claims of his religion.
No debate. I'm uninterested in debate.
Yeah.
Right. Of that kind, right?
You and I are not interested at all in debating anybody.
Yeah, religious debate's not the thing. But I think that talking about sort of, how do we have these conversations, right?
Right.
That could be an interesting conversation with somebody who is completely on the other side. I would just like to hear from somebody like a Greg Locke, like, just what do they think the healing of this country could look like? Yeah.
I have a sneaking suspicion that what healing this country looks like in Greg Locke's mind is everybody joins his church,
or at least is Christian. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. Considering that he has literally like called people like you and me devils and witches and evil, just on a loop repetitively throughout his entire ministry, it seems unlikely that he has any good solutions at hand, but we'd be willing to talk to him about it. So, Greggy boy,
challenge issued.
Yeah, no, invitation issued. We're trying to do at least for this thing, we're trying to do the mutually respectful, like, earnest disagreement thing. And then when he fails at that entirely, we will just make merciless fun of him.
Okay. All right. Wow. You're really setting that up for.
He's never going to come on the show. This is all like that.
How do you know, Dan?
All right. Well, you guys feel free to reach out to him on our behalf. Let him know that we've issued that invitation.
Oh, no. What are you unleashing?
Nobody's going to do that. But you're welcome to. I welcome it. I'm on board. All right. Do we have anybody to thank?
We do, Dan. These are kind folk who went to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and clicked on the support tab, where there are options like becoming a patron of the show on Patreon. And we have a couple people to thank here. We have a new deacon by the name of Nathaniel.
Ooh.
Thank you, Nathaniel. And a new teacher by the name of Jason.
Wow. Oh, and a fancy pronunciation of it.
Somehow
so
he deserved that. I don't know why.
Well done.
And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up.
So, Dan.
Yeah.
This is all based on an email that we got, right?
Yeah, we got an email from Chris in Toronto, and I thought it would be an interesting jumping off point for a discussion that we had. So should I just read the email and then we'll go from there? Okay.
That's a good place to start.
Chris said, "Hey, Frank and Dan, many people of different religions display their faith in different ways, such as by clothing or other symbols. I don't have an issue with that per se. It's their business. In fact, I embrace multiculturalism in opposition to melting pots. But as I watch populist fearmongers in the U.S., particularly in politics, I am annoyed by the ever-present display of Christian symbols, such as cross on earrings, necklaces, and tattoos. I want to push back on that, at least indirectly, and also promote atheism generally. Is there any symbology that we can use to demonstrate such belief? I've not seen any, short of a cross embedded within a red circle and a line through it. Of course, that targets only one religion. Let's get the message out there. Could you provide suggestions on advertising atheism?" Well,
okay.
I have a few thoughts.
Okay.
And I think that the first thought is that I'm going to commit a heresy here and say that the capital A with a circle around it that has been the sort of American symbol for atheism is terrible.
Oh.
Graphically, it is a disaster. And I reject it out of hand.
Cannot get behind that one. Okay.
Sorry, some of us have taste. I'm just going to say it.
Okay. All right. And the good people at a certain organization don't, apparently.
I've been to their conventions. No, I don't love that A with the circle around it. It's not awful, but I don't like it. Anyway, but to a larger point, I am wary of this idea. And I wanted to discuss it because I'm at loggerheads with myself. on the one hand, I think that one of the big problems in our society is the polarization, the tribalization of different groups. I think, the in-group, out-group mentality hurts us.
Right.
Because we dehumanize the out-group. It gives people a chance to say, well, they're not one of us. And therefore, so Christians feel okay with dehumanizing gay people because they're not one of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I hate this in-group, out-group thing. On the other hand, and the other thing is, I'm not a big fan of symbols. Just as I think that they actually encourage this in-group, out-group thing. People start to use the symbols as a sort of placeholder or as a marker of their grouping and sort of their affiliation. So I think it makes the problem worse. However, on the other side of things, humans we're tribal people. We're pack animals. We are, that instinct is DNA level encoded in us. So maybe we should be embracing it or find a healthier way of embracing it. And the other thing is that we are symbol loving species. We are a species that responds well to symbols. So I don't know what to do.
You sound torn.
I am asunder, my friend. Positively asunder.
I don't know that we've given Chris or anything right at this point.
No, not yet.
To work with.
Here's what I have presented the problem. Yeah. Now you solve it.
Okay, so I think what I'm sort of hearing from Chris, and maybe I'm reading into it a little bit, is there's a desire to sort of put it out there, right? In the same way, right?
Yeah,
to advertise almost, right? To
be open and proud and
right?
displaying,
and that's important. Like that's important for people, right?
Yeah.
To feel like, like I have this thing that's about me, right?
Yeah.
That I want people to know, especially because there are these people walking around with crosses or whatever other markers of sort of their belief, their religion, whatever.
And you and I have called on people to do just that, to be out and open about their atheism.
And people wear t-shirts and whatnot. Atheists I'm talking about, right? We'll wear t-shirts out and about that are fun and snarky, or just say something like, "Thank God I'm atheist," the podcast.
Right. Yeah,
and so like I get the desire to kind of just put it out there into the world. And that I think has real value. I think agreeing on a symbol is difficult because the value that comes in sort of the letter A that you referenced with the circle, there's value in that it already exists, and that it's also relatively generic, right? Like, because I was like, well, what other symbols could you do? And I kept coming on things that, like, you could just put like a globe, right? And it's like, but doesn't that kind of end up being more humanist, right? Or like there's, if you ascribe it too much meaning, all of a sudden it's now not about just, I don't believe in God, right? Which is really what, and if the one thing that atheists share, the only thing that atheists share ultimately, is that we don't believe in God, right? Like, that's it. Right. And then there's different ways of living your life, or choosing, an ethical system by which to live by, that is up to you, right? And so like it's hard. It's really hard. And I think that, like, I don't know what the symbol would be.
Yeah, I don't either, because what I don't want it to be is, anti anything else.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't want it to be.
But atheist is anti something. It's in the word, right?
Well, it's without something, which is not the same as anti something. So, like, you know, the cross in the red circle with a line through it is against something rather than just without something. And so I think that that's an important distinction. And, you know, the other atheist symbol that I see a lot is like the same A in the circle, but it's got like sort of electron orbit patterns around it, so that it looks so that it's saying science. It's adding a science element to it, and I understand that too. But maybe, it's so hard for me to figure out, like, because that doesn't do a lot for me either. Like, my belief system in terms of atheism is kind of separate from my taste for science. I like science. I think science is important.
And that's what I'm saying. As soon as you opt for something, right, you're getting away from the whole idea of what makes an atheist, right? Which is, again, going back to the root meaning of the word, right?
Yeah.
And so,
well, yeah, atheist is without theism.
I think it's not. Are you sure that without?
Well, like, you know, a as a prefix is generally without, like, or like a
regardless, it is a negation. And
or it stands in contrast to,
exactly,
if nothing else.
Right.
Sure.
And so you know, that's hard because there's one thing that we're standing against. Right. And so it's like, so I don't, again, I like the idea of the advertising, right? I like the idea of getting it out there and putting it out there and being proud and being, and the nice thing about a piece of jewelry is that if you wore it to work, you know, nobody can really, you know, your boss can't really get after you for being offensive. Right. If you wear a shirt that's like, fuck Jesus, you might run into some problems. Right.
Yeah. A cross with the line through it is not going to fly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so, but, you know, you wear just a nice little A earring or something, like, what can they say about that?
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's tricky. If any of you out there are graphic designers and would like to submit to us potential atheist symbols, we being, of course, the arbiters of
indeed
of what is an acceptable or good atheist symbol and what isn't, please feel free to do so. I would love to see it. You know, maybe we'll make some merch with your thing on it. Who knows?
Anything's possible.
I would love to see more stuff. I know, or conversely, if you would like to write into us and say that we are idiot assholes for not loving the A in the circle, feel free to do that as well. That is also valid feedback that we will listen to. I don't know who designed that. It's not awful. There's also the version of it that's basically is the anarchy symbol. And that's another association that's interesting, but you know, we're not anarchists all. We are atheists. That's different.
Yeah.
So anyway, or if there's a symbol that you and I are not aware of that we have, you know, and you know, there's the flying spaghetti monster thing or the Darwin fish thing, or you know, there are other things out there that are funny and cute and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the humanist symbol, which is the person sort of this sort of stick figure with their arms up in the air or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, it feels like it's hard to have a symbol that's a negative. You know what I mean? Like you saying, it's like, this isn't promoting a thing,
right?
The way Christianity is,
right?
Or Judaism or Islam or whatever. It's like it's a negative. How do you promote a negative with a symbol? But here's what I would love it to be. What I would love it to be, rather than I like that it embraces science. You know me, I love science. But what I would love is for it to be a symbol that says, hey, you're welcome with us. It's safe here. We want happiness in the world. We want to make the world a better place. Like, these are the ideas, rather than just like, we don't believe in your God.
Right.
I would love for the symbol to have a welcoming sense, to have a sense of like, come on in, the water's fine, sort of thing. I don't know. I don't know how you do that with a symbol. I am not a graphic designer. That may be a ridiculous task.
It's a tall order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you have a hug as a symbol?
I don't know. I was wondering if maybe there's an emoji.
Boom.
We should have an emoji.
The atheist emoji.
But I don't know which one we would pick.
Oh, let me tell you something. You want to get the kids out of their churches. Get them using the emoji.
Yeah. Could we just adopt, I don't know, has anybody claimed the bacon emoji? Does that have a purpose?
Too many vegan atheists.
Oh, shit. You're right.
We can't do that.
You're right.
All right. Well, now the call to action is propose your emoji symbol for us that's already out there. Oh, that would be amazing. We just start claiming an actual...
The juice box. Can we have the juice box? Can that be us?
What about the Space Invader character? That'd be kind of fun. That would be a
good one.
Who knows?
Anyway.
Who knows? All right. Well, friends, thank you. If you would like to write into us about any of those things, please feel free to do so. Podcast at Thank God I'm Atheist.
If you'd like to leave a voicemail, you can do so by calling 424-666-8442.
Yeah, hey, just support the show. It's the only way we can go.
Mm-hmm.
Go to thankgodimatheist.com to donate. It's thankgodimatheist.com/donate. You can give us some of your money. We would desperately appreciate it.
The show is edited by Roger Gowdy, and music is provided by the Red Rock Hot Club and Gordon Johnston.
Thanks to all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2024, all rights reserved.